Okay, so anyway, let's continue.
So in the mean, ang mean is composed of 4 columns, which is the class interval, frequency, the midpoint, and the x sub n, which is the class interval and the frequency given na siya from the problem that given to us in a teacher, and the midpoint is the lowest score, subtract to the highest score, and then divide into 2. You'll get the midpoint.
Actually, I think she just mixed it up again. To get the midpoint or the class mark, it's basically it is actually the average between the lower limit and the upper limit of each class interval. It's not the difference actually. She mixed it up again.
Well, in the f x sub n is the frequency multiple in midpoint, multiple that
What do you mean by multiple? Multiple or multiply? I don't know what you're saying.
one in the midpoint, and then you get the fx sub n, or in other words, the midpoint, i-add mo siya sa class interval.
Actually, what you're saying is that whenever you find the first midpoint, to get the succeeding midpoint, it's simply you just have to add the previous by the class with or I to get the next class midpoint, the midpoint of the next class interval.
So you'll get everything, and then so
I think
next
she's
is
almost down to the last.
the measurement of other position in decile. Ang measurement of other position in
It's decile, not decile. She said decile. It's actually decile.
ang kakuon sila sa imong table, makakatun lagi mo tanan, and also kung memorize din mo ang formula sa decile. And then ang D1 is composed of 10%, ang D5 composed of 50%, and ang D10 composed of 100. So the last topic that I will be share with you.
I don't know what happened with the measure of other position, the percentile, decile, and quartile, but she cut it. Anyway, probably those were the only things she thought that is worth sharing.
Is the hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is
I was just like, I don't know whether she's aware that it's actually hypothesis testing. She said hypothesis. I mean, well, I'm not trying to humiliate her. Probably she's not really familiar with the term that much. I don't know. But it's actually hypothesis testing. Like in her visual it says hypothesis testing, but she said hypothesis. Anyway, let's continue.
it is a type of statistical inference which assesses the evidence provided by the data about some claim concerning a population. Now, there are two types of competitive hypothesis whenever you're constructing hypothesis.
Hypothesis. No, it's hypothesis, not hypothesis. I don't know what happened.
The first one is the mule hypothesis. The form
It's not mule, but it's actually mu. It's referring to the population mean. As compared, as samples were being compared, the population mean the sample mean was compared to the population mean. It's mu, not mule.
here is h sub o mule equals 0, or h sub o p equals 0. Mule hypothesis testing will always give you an
Oh, how it's hypothesis, it's hypothesis. And then, like, I think she's not fully aware that it's just hypothesis. Because she's so serious, she's it's
not even
hypothesis,
laughing,
and
it's
then
not hypothesis.
the idea was really
Anyway,
serious, and I don't know what
continue.
is wrong.
The next one is a alternative hypothesis. The formula is h sub o mu mule greater than 0, or m mule less than 0, or mule not equal than 0. The other thing is the population proportion of p greater than 0, or p less than the 0, or p is not equal than 0. The similar one is the hypothesis testing for one population mean. Here are the steps. Another thing is similar to hypothesis testing is my example and steps of one sample proportion. Here are the steps of.
She is providing us an example wherein there is p greater than 0, p less than 0, and then p is not equal to 0. So there are 3 instances here for the alternative hypothesis, and then the population mean is not so different with the sample mean.
Hypothesis testing for one sample proportion. Step 1, you'll define the p, the parameter, the h sub o, p equals 0, or the h
to lower the volume because it's too loud.
Sub a, alternative, p greater than 0, or greater than less than 0, or p not equal than 0. The step 2 is the condition, the normality, the n times p greater than 10, or nq, n times p greater than 10. And the independence, n is greater than 10 times n, and then randomly selected n. After you proceed to step 2, you will do calculation.
What happened with the randomly?
The formula
Randomly,
here
the spelling
is
is
the z
incorrect.
equal to
Anyway.
p hat minus p all over the square root of p times q of all over n. Step 4, you will draw like this. You will draw like this. This is the left tails, h sub o, p less than 0, and this is the
3 instances that are actually representing the normal distribution of the data when p, the normality is greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0.
2 tails, di ba? Makita ninyo nga na siya 2 ka tails. So h sub o, p equal to 0. And then this one is h sub o, p greater than 0. Nasa right ang iyang tail. And also the last steps of
The left and right.
the hypothesis one sample proportion is if you're going, it will be.
By the way, the tail here is actually explaining the rejection region. Or your alternative is non-directional. That means to say, it's either left or right. You have 2 rejection area. Okay, let's continue.
Right on a conclusion if you will reject the h sub o or the h sub a, the alternative, and then you'll.
Well, actually, there is no proper ending of her video. But surely, I appreciated the effort. I can feel her nervousness when she came up with this video. Well, for me, there were just some things that I noticed. There were some ideas in the concepts that are not correct. But I'm sure either she was really confused or it was just because of her being so nervous. But all in all, I appreciate the effort, and then I appreciate really she came up with visual aid, but there were just times that the visual aid in the previous and earlier part of the video which was not actually maximized or used. But towards the end, she actually used already the visual aid she came up with. So with that, there you go. It just made me, give me some sort of, I don't know whether she's fully aware, but it's just like hypothesis testing. She finds it like a tongue twister already. Hypothesis. Anyway, it's actually hypothesis testing. Because the lesson, because of short period for summer online class, we were not able to reach hypothesis testing, which that's the end lesson supposedly of this course. But what I asked them is that they are going to come up with their own research and then include it in their project video that they are going to come up with. So that's why it's actually based purely on their research, how to conduct and perform a hypothesis testing. Well, anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Well, overall, I was just so grateful and thankful that this output, I know they came up with this one. It's really difficult considering, by the way, that the student is working at the same time. So she's like having a full-time job and then she's also studying at the same time. So I can feel also her sacrifices just to come up with this one. So with that, I really appreciate students who are really do not exchange the value of education over the work that they have. I'm not saying that working is bad, but you just have to make sure that if you are a working student, make sure there's a balance. Because after all, you're doing things, you are working at the same time you're studying. So you're working so you can finish your study. So if you're going to left out your study, you are missing the point why you're working. The work you have is just used to aid the finances you needed for schooling. But if you're going to left out schooling, I think you are missing the point why you're working and studying at the same time. But it's really commendable. Students who are like her and among other students who are working at the same time studying, it's really a commendable attitude. Surely, if they make it during their school days, when they will be in a real job already, that they're working already full time, I'm sure they're gonna make it also. With that, thank you so much, guys, and I hope you enjoy being with me doing a video reaction to one of my students out. If you have some suggestion, by the way, I'm gonna ask already this one. If you have some suggestion for me to do, please leave a comment on my comment section and then let me see if I can do it, then I'm gonna do it. And if not, I'm gonna put it on hold for a while and probably when things will allow me already to do whatever challenge you wanted me to do, then let it. Here we go, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And then, by the way, I'm so happy because Cebu now is already in a general community quarantine for after quite some time that is under enhanced community quarantine. Thank you and bye-bye.